Did you go to a high school that has side at the end of the name? Are you a subscribing member of Sharks Magazine? Did you ever accidentally make a sex tape? Hopefully not, but hey.
A loaded question.
That's exactly. Accidentally in air quotes. Hi, I'm Katie.
And I'm Dani.
And you are here on a nostalgic or problematic special series episode of Generation in Between, a Xennial Podcast, where we are revisiting season 1 so far of Dawson's Creek. And today we're talking about episode 4, Discovery. Discovery. And we are just going to pop right into it. We've got our coffee. It's a Friday morning. We're recording and we're just kind of fired up about those episodes.
I know.
So we should probably get right into it. Dan, you want to remind everybody how we review these shows?
Sure. So we have a very elaborate, very fancy rating system. Dani does smiley faces and frowny faces, and Katie does hearts and red X's.
Yes. And I couldn't find my red pen at first.
Oh, no.
So some of them are black, but then I found it. So on the second page of my literal paper notes in my little notebook here is red. So today it's red and black. But you can't see it anyway, so who cares? But I just wanted Dani to know, like, if she's glancing over, like, what the heck are the black ones? What does that mean? Just means red.
Wouldn't even notice.
It means I lost my pen, basically.
Means I didn't have my red X pen. All right. So like we said last time, all these episodes have one-word titles. This one was Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of discoveries that happened.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll start with smileys and hearts, since we like to start on the positive note and end on a negative and leave you with sour.
Exactly.
So here's a funny one, and it's funny that it's Discovery because I realized a few episodes in, I totally forgot how attractive Dawson's dad is.
Yes.
Right?
Especially like nowadays.
But I remember, even as a 17-year-old watching the show, I was like, oh, none of my friends' dads look like
right. Is that a thing? Dads can look like this.
Yeah.
And his voice.
I know.
He's got that like really deep, almost like radio voice. I love it.
I was like, because I don't know, I remembered that, but I forgot. And then I was like, oh, yeah. He was a cute dad, even when I was a teenager, which I don't know what that means.
I mean, I think it was okay if you were like 17 to be like, that's a attractive older man, I think. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't go too deep into
whatever.
Brain on that one.
And he still is. I looked him up just to see. He still looks, he looks older, obviously. Yeah. But he's still an attractive man.
I love that you looked him up.
Of course I did.
Like, so then I had to know.
Well, don't you want to know how like people age? Because some people age very wonderfully.
Yeah.
Some people, like Al Pacino, looks awful.
Yeah.
He did not age well.
No. And yeah, I mean, I guess just the curiosity of it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was cute.
All right, so that was my first happy face.
So my first one was a line, of course. When Joey is talking to Dawson in the opening scene, and she says something, the line is well-maintained image of a middle-class person.
Oh.
Yeah, and she says something to the extent of, like, I don't know what I meant by this, but I said, Joey predicts the future. You've put a lot of thought into it, not really, just predictable. Huh? I don't know what that means, you guys. Wow. I liked that line, though. When Joey's talking about like parents and stuff like that, and she's, trying to, because as a reminder, last episode, Dawson discovered that his mom was having an affair.
Yeah.
And so this episode is kind of him kind of trying to get up the courage to tell his dad and all of that.
And it's their wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
It's his parents' 20th wedding anniversary, right? Or was that the last episode?
No, I think that was this one.
Okay.
That was this one because they're so excited to go out and Dawson's trying to get up the courage. I think we'll get to that later.
We will.
But I just liked that line, well-maintained image of a middle-class person. Anyway.
Actually, I looked ahead at my notes.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote down, this wasn't a happy or a sad for me. But I remember when I watched this episode as a 17-year-old, I'm from a divorced family. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I remember thinking how long 20 years of marriage was. Guess how long I've been married? 19 years. And I'm like, dang, it's just weird because you think when you're young, granted, that is a very long time to be in a relationship.
In general, yeah.
With anyone, even a friend. But like to have that like realization of knowing when you were 17, that seemed very long. And then be 43 and being like, oh, well, I'm there now.
Yeah.
Like it was just weird. So it wasn't a happy or a sad. It was just one of those weird middle-aged moments.
Yeah, you're like, that was long. Wait, it is long.
I
but
know.
Also, it's almost here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in that same scene, my next one, and I know what I am talking about in this note.
Good.
Joey and Dawson are watching this accidental recorded footage.
Oh
and
my
they're
gosh.
in Dawson's room.
Which is Pacey and the teacher.
Right.
Ugh.
But I wrote down really good storytelling because, I don't know, usually these plot lines are like, you can't figure out who it is. And then you think it's a misidentification and you think it's Dawson's mom, but really it wasn't and blah, blah, blah. And I guess I didn't quite remember how they did this from when I watched it the first time. And I'm like, oh God, it's going to be like all this, like, was it this person? Was it that person? But right away in that first scene, they're like, oh, that's Miss Jacobs.
Yeah.
Now they can't see Pacey.
Right.
But I just thought that was good storytelling. So right off the bat, they're like, oh, wow, she's out like doing whatever. And they knew it was her.
Right.
And I just was like, okay, so this is like not the way that I just assumed it would go.
Yeah. You're right. That is good storytelling.
I thought it was.
That just, yeah. Okay. So I actually, in that same area, we know that this is disgusting, that Pacey and his teacher are having sex. Obviously, we've talked about this many times. But I will say, I did have a happy face, not because of the situation, because of this conversation him and Dawson had. Mm-hmm. But then, so when Pacey goes over to his house, because he eventually tells him, but he wanted to see the tape to see, like, oh my God. Like, obviously, he wanted to see, like, can people tell it's me? Like, oh my God. Like, but he, like, very sheepishly, like, asked Dawson, like, did I do okay? Like, and he was like, I know this is a weird question, but like, I think I wrote it down. Oh, did I do okay performance wise? And Dawson was just like, yeah, I think you did fine. And I was like, I don't know. I thought that was like something, even though because he is 15, was his first time.
Yeah.
And he was really worried that can you imagine like your first time being accidentally videotaped?
No.
Let's take the
like
teacher piece out of it. That's what I'm saying.
Anytime.
Or yes,
but
correct.
Definitely that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Anytime. Take the teacher piece out of it. And he was just very sheepishly, which teenage boys, I don't know, don't usually have very, what's the right word when conversations about sex that are very like, oh, I don't know, like usually they're kind of shielded in false confidence.
Yes.
And he was just being like, hey man, was I okay? And he's like, yeah, I think you did great. Like,
yeah. I said I didn't really like that.
Yeah,
I think it was just, because what I didn't like about that scene, and I totally see what you're saying, because maybe that is good writing, because it's like a very vulnerable moment. And that's
that's what it is.
And that's what he was worried about, as opposed to like the fact that it was illegal and a teacher and all this.
Correct. That's what I said. Take the teacher piece out of it.
Right. But that he was just worried about like how he did. But like I put that like the embarrassment factor of it was like the biggest thing he was worried about. At least that's what it seemed like.
Yeah.
And then I wrote Pacey asking if it looked like he did it right and Dawson reassuring him. Which,
like, how would he know, first of all? But still.
Also that, yes.
But I think what I liked about it was that he was feeling vulnerable and he needed his friend to comfort him, which you don't see a lot. Anyway, that's why I said I had to take the teacher piece out of it, because that just makes it all weird and gross.
Use that interaction between him and Dawson. Yeah, I could see that.
Right. But like, obviously, the whole you can't really cherry pick, because the context of it is icky.
Is awful. And really, should Dawson have been like, this is terrible, we're going to the police, blah, blah, blah? Yes.
Yes.
He should have.
Right.
So there's that. But, are you going to do that on this show where you've already written this storyline? No, you're not. Right. So I suppose like maybe a tender moment between friends is okay. I also had a little bit before that when Jen and Dawson are walking back from somewhere and they hold hands and walk home. And I just thought that was so
cute.
I don't know. It just made me smile. And they're like swinging their arms.
Swinging the arms.
And just like seemed like so happy.
Are you a hand holder?
That's a really good question. I wouldn't say a lot. Like my husband and I will hold hands if we're like at a show. We'll generally eventually hold hands or if we're like watching our kids in a show. But I wouldn't say we hold hands like just randomly in public.
I am like not I think we've talked about this. Like I am not a big physical touch, especially like PDA stuff, but Troy is like so he's always like grabbing my hand and I'll be like, okay. And I'm like, it's nothing personal. I just like I am never the one to like grab the hand. Like he'd probably die of shock if I was like, let's hold hands.
Hey, 20th anniversary idea.
I know. I will hold your hand every day.
Or just on the anniversary for a special surprise. My littlest is a hand holder, toucher, hugger, all the things.
For sure.
Like she will just barrel into you, almost knock you over with hugs and handholds. And and it doesn't bother me.
Cooper does too.
Yeah. I'm like totally cool with that.
Yeah, Cooper is too. Although I do like, there are times where I'll be like, okay, like, because we've talked about this on the show before. Consent is a big deal. So like, I will give you a hug, but sometimes I don't want a hug.
Right.
So like, you have to respect that. If somebody says, you know what, I just really, for whatever reason, like I'm hot or like I just don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm touched out or whatever.
I get like that in the evening. Like my husband jokes that I like make like this whole like barrier around me. But it's because I've middle age. I've got my pillows just right. I've got my blankets and just a weighted blanket on my side because my husband. So I have like a twin size weighted blanket over me. And then I put a pillow on top of my stomach on top of that. And sometimes I put a pillow on my head. And so like all you can see are like my nose and lips, and like that's it. And
that
then
is so
if
funny.
anything shifts, you can't see me at all. And so he'll reach over just to like see if I'm there in the morning, because usually I get up pretty early.
Yeah.
And if it's hollow, then he's like, okay, she's not there. But if he like feels like a warm lump, I'm not saying like I am not a color when I sleep. I think too, because just modern society, how stimulated we are.
Oh God, yeah.
Also, children, pets.
Yeah.
I work with youth during the day. When I sit down like in that space, I don't want anyone else in that space. Not a dog, not a husband, not a child. Like I need that time to just be sort of like encapsulated and not touched, to recharge.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I don't have that time to kind of process all that stimulation.
So don't hold
and
our
I need
hands.
it. Don't. Okay.
Okay, sorry. Just
all
wanted to
that
ask
over
you that.
holding hands. Okay, so I have a quick one. I can just say a line that I really liked.
Oh, okay.
When Dawson comes into his room and Pacey's like digging through all the tapes, like frantic, and he says, "Do you know what I'm going to say? Stop it! You're messing up my dailies.
My dailies.
My dailies. I mean, technically, they still call them that on film sets and TV show sets, but I just thought, like, it was just such an official way of being like, my art. Stop! You're rifling through it. That made me laugh.
It was cute. All right. Well, the other smile I have, I think that's my last one. Let me see. Was just, I'm sorry, every episode, the clothes, I just love them.
I know. Me too.
And every episode, I remember something else that I wore or my friends wore, like in the real life. So in this one, Dawson had on that oversized he has multiple oversized V-neck sweaters with the undershirt that's like a different color. And then he wears that little short like necklace of some sort with like little like whatever.
A shell or
oh my God.
something.
Every high school male friend of mine dressed like that.
Yes.
Every single one.
You're
with
so
like
right.
The baggy jeans.
I was going to say the baggy jeans or the cargo pants.
The cargo pants.
Yes. That was such a time capsule.
I just love it. Like that's one of the reasons why watching all these has been so fun. It's just the music and the clothes
and the hair, even
the makeup, like
all of it.
Did you see the white eyeshadow this episode?
Yes. It looked really good.
I have to say she's still wearing it in season 4 because I am in season 4.
Okay.
She still has it.
That's good.
My college years check. I was on trend.
You were on trend. Okay, so my next smiley, I have a couple more smileys. You said you don't have any more.
So
you have no
give
more.
me
Okay,
all
let
of
me
them.
just pop through them. Another Joey line when Dawson is saying about Bob, who is Bob the one? The line Joey says is, I think you had it right the first time. I know what it was. Bob is the other anchor, the co-anchor.
Oh, duh. Yeah.
And Dawson's like, when I saw him on TV, blah, blah, blah. But then I met him and I thought he was great. And Joey's like, oh, I think you got it right the first time.
Yeah.
Like, about him, like, he's terrible. And then I just put, for a 16-year-old, Jen, Michelle Williams is the actress, is an amazing actor.
I know.
Like, they're all good.
She's the baby of the bunch.
But I'm, like, watching it, and it's so nuanced.
Uh-huh.
It's so just like level.
Mm-hmm. And she's a natural.
She's a natural. Mm-hmm. Like, I was just watching it like mesmerized. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this one. Pacey's whole critique when he's talking about how sex is depicted in books.
Oh.
With Miss Jacobs. And he's like, I agree with him, but not the circumstances he was doing. So he's like, why every time is there sex, something bad happens?
It's true.
Like the Scarlet Letter, or like someone dies, or someone gets sick, or they're stoned by their community or exiled. And I was like, yeah, why is that? Like, why are we, for all of time, demonizing sex?
Patriarchy.
Seriously. Is that the first time we've said this in the Dawson's Creek series?
Lots of episodes, actually.
Yeah.
I have not said the word patriarchy in a while. But there it is.
It's back. Patriarchy's back, you guys.
That is why, though. I mean, a lot of that classic literature, because if you realize in the books, the bad things happen to the woman.
Exactly.
So it is patriarchy.
Yeah, totally is. So I was like, yeah, he's right.
He's right.
And then a line from Jen when she's talking to Dawson, and she says, not everything in life has to be complicated.
Uh-huh.
I loved that.
I know.
It's like, some things are. But you don't have to deliberately, like, complicate other things.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was the one where Dawson caught his mom.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. He catches his mom, and I said, because he goes to her studio to use the recording studio so Jen can re-record.
And they were being kind of like very, like, they kissed in the hall. I was like, okay, risky.
Right? Like, even if you don't
brazen.
think you're... And then, like, later, the mom's like, oh, I thought you were coming by. I'm like, if you thought your son was coming by...
Well, and also,
why are you kissing... Well, that, yes. But also on a day that you know he's coming.
Yeah.
Weird. I thought that was weird. Yeah. Not good writing.
No,
anyway.
Not good writing.
But I thought it was a good way to do it because then Joey didn't have to tell him. Mm-hmm. Of course, we'll get into that. Like, he's upset with Joey because she knew, but it didn't put her in that spot. And then I loved this line. Again, the circumstances are god-awful. But when Pacey confronts Miss Jacobs in the classroom because she saw him, like, Pacey saw Miss Jacobs laughing with this other teacher, Mr. Gold. And he goes, so who's it going to be, me or Mr. Gold? And I was like, oh my God,
cringe,
this is awful, but also like, why am I giggling right now?
Oh, cringe. I can't.
Okay, so you'll like this one. This is another line that I loved. Dawson's dad, this is why you're going to like it. He looks him right in the eye and he says, Dawson, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Because like they keep getting interrupted and blah, blah, blah. And then he just like stops what he's doing. And I was like, I love that.
I know.
Such an intentional parenting moment between dad and son. And then, of course, like Dawson doesn't have the courage to like say what he knows.
Yeah.
I laughed when, again, horrible circumstance. Pacey, I guess, is in Miss Jacobs' bedroom.
Oh, yeah. They're like chilling reading magazines.
Yeah. But he was reading Sharks magazine.
Why does she have that?
I don't know.
Like, weird.
Is it? I was like, I wonder if it's like an inside joke between writers or something.
Maybe
because
it's like an Easter egg.
Of all the things, why would you give him that magazine? I thought that was really funny. Exactly.
Oh, all right.
I liked that the Sarah McLachlan song "Undertow."
Yes,
I love that song.
I know.
It reminded me. Oh my God, I haven't listened to Sarah McLachlan in a while.
So, well, you have to be in a certain mood to listen to Sarah McLachlan, so it's probably good you haven't listened to her in a while.
You know what? That's a really good point. I was like, guys, I've just been binging on Sarah McLachlan. You're like, are you okay? And another line I liked when Joey was worried that Dawson was mad at her. Dawson says, I'm mad at the world, Joey. I'm a teenager. I was like, wow, I feel
Facts.
that. I have 3 teenagers in my house right now and one that just turned 12. So I'm going to have 4 teenagers this time next year.
Cannot believe that.
Yeah.
One of which will be a senior.
One will be a senior.
Crazy.
He'll be on it. But by this time next year, he'll be 18.
Yeah. Mine will be 18. Kaden will be 18 in November.
Wow.
What?
Well, yeah, we'll probably be talking about senior stuff a lot.
Yeah, we will.
I loved Joey's description of social evolution.
Yeah,
when she was like, "We keep the things that work." We again, great writing. Nothing a 16 or 17-year-old would ever actually be saying. And Joey's very smart. Not saying she's not.
No,
but the depth of this, she would just be like, "Yeah, people change."
Right.
But instead, it's like, "Well, we keep the things that work, and we get rid of the things that don't, and they go into museums, and then we go look at them behind glass cases." And I was like, "This is beautiful. This is so not realistic."
So
but
a 40-year-old man writing.
Yeah. And then when Joey goes to leave in the final scene, she says, "Dawson, I'm going to bed. All the subtext is making me tired." Yeah. And I thought, I don't know why, maybe because I had to watch it a few times. This episode was long to me. It was like 44 minutes. I mean, it was long. They're all kind of
They're all about that. Yeah.
So when I heard her say, I was like, yeah, me too.
Yeah,
like,
same.
Is this almost over?
Same girl.
Yeah. So anyway, those were all my goods.
Okay, so here we go. Digging into the bad. While we're talking about Joey, I'll just jump right in.
Go ahead.
Something that was a frowny for me that I noticed so much, and it eventually fades. And I think it's probably just because she's an inexperienced actress when this was filmed. This is like her first big thing.
Yeah.
I don't know who told her to do this, but all of her like excessive like shoulder shrugs and her awkward little head tucks. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Her body language. I mean, a little bit is fine, but I don't know who told her to keep doing it. It was so distracting. Like, I noticed it. I started noticing it episode 3. And then this episode, I'm like, oh my God, why is she still doing the little thing? Like, watch. Like,
yeah. Okay. Now I'll notice it more.
And I know it, and she does it well.
Right.
But I know it's probably because somebody, her director, assistant, somebody said, have more awkward body language. And it's so much. Well, it drove me crazy. But it doesn't feel natural because it's so much. And it eventually gets less. Because I think she eventually settles into her character as they're filming, and
of course,
and she's young, so it was just distracting.
I think it's like when we talk about performing or even singing, I tell my students who are singers, I say, you might have something you're great at, but it can't be your default.
Yes.
So every time you sing a song, like for me, I have like a really strong natural vibrato. So every time I open my mouth, that's what's going to happen, unless I train myself to do something a little different.
Right.
And then I make that vibrato a technique I use when I want. And I think acting's the same. That's something she does really well.
Oh, for sure.
And when you use it like purposefully, it's impactful.
Yeah.
But when it's your default and it's all you're doing when you're like awkward, okay, I'm doing this now.
Yeah.
Again, young actress,
right.
Totally not hating on Katie Holmes at all.
I mean, she was learning.
And obviously she does a character wonderful. I can't imagine anyone else as that character, but it is one of those, it's a good reminder to those of us that are performers, like,
for real,
what are the things that you kind of are your crutch? And maybe you're really good at those, but you've got to pick when you're going to use them and when you're not. Yeah.
I think Amanda even said something about that when we interviewed her.
Yeah.
She said a teacher told her, like, don't use every tool in your toolbox, like, all at once.
Yes.
You just take out certain ones for certain times or something like that.
Yeah, that was exactly right. Exactly right.
Anyways.
So I already told you the ones that I had that were bad about like how I didn't love the scene between Pacey and Dawson when I was looking for the tape. Another one. Okay, so now I'm just sort of like, so now Joey's talking about Jen. And again, talking about her breast size. Oh. So we had the Wonder Bra, which I thought was a little bit funny. But now she says, referring to her, she calls her the last stages of the B cup.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
So which is it? Is she a B cup or is she a Wonder Bra? But then I was like, okay, can we maybe one joke is, I don't even know if it's okay, but again, now we're just constantly using breast terms as insults to Jen.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
And also in line with that, where I have on mine, like where her and Dawson have that like chat where she tells him like, I'm not really a virgin. And
I have that too.
He was a complete jerk to her about it.
Yeah.
Like there was like, it was very like sexuality shaming of him.
Well, and even what she was saying.
Oh, I know.
Maybe, and that's what I was trying to figure out. Are they trying to be realistic because women of that time really did feel that way? But it was almost like she was saying what I did was wrong. And that bothered me.
Well, I don't know. I think maybe she was saying that she did it because she made those decisions from a bad place. So I think, but he was like really misogynistic about it.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
And even when, like, was it Joey who tells him, like, you're just mad because you weren't there? Like, you had this idea that Jen was this perfect doll and you didn't get to be the one, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, ew, Dawson, like, that is why you're mad. Like,
but then was that a good thing that it was written that way? Because then it was written to look like he shouldn't be like
well, yeah, I don't know.
I guess it depends, but I know what you mean. I wrote that I didn't love when she was having this honest conversation with him about her sexual history. I said it felt like she was admitting to a crime. And I didn't like that.
Well, and it almost felt like she thought she had to tell him.
That too.
And like, you don't. Now, and if you were sexually active with another person, you 100% need to tell them
absolutely
your physical past. You have to. That's just for safety reasons. But also, like, you are not obligated to tell somebody else, anybody else, who you've been with, how many times, how many people. That's not his business.
No,
it's not. He, like, it's almost like she felt like she had to tell him, and then he was like,
well, and the premise was everyone should be honest all the time, which is totally Dawson.
Well, and yes,
he's
you
a romantic.
Should be honest, but also you don't have to lay all your cards on the table all the time.
Agree.
Some things are just for you.
I totally agree.
Right?
Yeah. It just I didn't love that.
Yeah, me either. Also, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, this might be the one you were about to say. That same scene where I said I thought I laughed when Pacey said me or Mr. Gold.
Oh.
And then Pacey says, Mr. Gold is gay?
Yeah. And it was this big.
I said I couldn't tell if he was just surprised or it was bad.
Well, no, because she says, keep that between us.
Oh, yeah, you're right. She does. Which I will say I don't not support. I do think even in the case of teachers, like, it's their business as well.
Well, right. But I think,
but that's not what
during
she meant.
that time.
That's not what she meant, right?
You know,
like, I don't think you have to share your sexual anything.
Well, no.
Whether you're married, whether you're not, whether you got kids. If you're a teacher, you don't have to share any of that
that's your
with
business.
any of your students or your colleagues or anybody.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think the way it was written was more like, ooh, no one
like
will
it was
approve.
a negative. Yeah, it was a negative.
So make
or
sure
bad
no one
thing.
knows. Yeah,
like it was a dark secret.
Yeah,
which I did not like that. So
I
did
either.
have that written down. But then also in that same scene, something that Miss Jacobs says to Pacey is, "You're very disarming when you start sounding your age."
Yeah,
gross. Like,
he is that age.
Gross,
lady.
Because he's 15.
Yeah, ew.
Like,
yeah,
ew.
Really gross.
Anyways.
I didn't like the video store conversation between Pacey and Dawson.
Me either.
Oh, so bad. I was like, when is this going to be over?
Me either.
And it's Pacey being like, well, I'm totally paraphrasing, but being like, well, the reason she told you is because you're next. She wants to sleep with you. And she wanted you to have the green light to know it's okay. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now?
And then he's like, and you want somebody who's been with other people. And I'm like, ew.
Yeah.
Now, do teenage boys talk like that? Probably, but still.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. I just didn't. That like, really, at least the way it was written, it seemed like Jen really was just trying to have a vulnerable moment.
Right.
But then Pacey saying, oh, it's because she's trying to like get in your pants.
Right.
And I was like, what? But you're right. Maybe it's realistic. I don't know. That's all I had for my frownies. What else you got? Oh, you have frownies. That's all I had for my exes.
Yeah.
Oh, I had one more. Sorry. Go on.
Well, speaking of Miss Jacobs, I'll go ahead and say my other one. Excuse me. The same scene where they're in the bed reading Shark Magazine.
I think this is going to be the one I had.
Yeah, and he asks her how many partners she had, which I hate that question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, fun fact, Troy and I have been married 19 years, together for 21 years.
Wow.
I have zero idea how many partners he has, and he has zero idea how many partners I had, because it doesn't matter. So if my children are listening to this, now you don't know either. So,
if you die, he won't know. And if he dies, you won't know.
In the very beginning of our relationship, that was like, it doesn't really matter as long as, like I said, you have to disclose proper information to be healthy, which we knew are that information.
And if you're having multiple sexual relationships at the same time,
correct. If you're in a monogamous relationship and you both have solid, clean testing, fine. This is a very safe sex episode of
I feel like we're on 90210.
I do too.
But we have to add like problems with homework. AIDS.
Peer pressure. Well, we're kind of covering AIDS because we're talking about testing.
We are.
Anyways.
Look at us go.
But anyway, he asks her how many partners she had. And she's like, tells him like, oh, there's one in high school. There's one in college. And then my husband, blah, blah, blah. And then she goes, and Pacey gets all like feeling weird about it. And she goes, well, the one in high school, I didn't mean my high school.
That was the ex I
Ew.
had.
Ew.
Gross. And then his face.
I know.
Ugh. He's like got this like, honestly, he looked like a little kid.
A little child.
Kid smile.
Because he is a little child.
I know. And I was like, oh, get me out of this scene.
I know. I
really
can't wait till she's
uncomfortable.
out. She'll be gone at some point.
I've like, even just the scene, just like I was feeling unsafe in my own body, just seeing them sitting on that bed together. I was just like,
so weird.
Something bad's gonna happen to me.
I know.
This is really, really bad. You know, like it was awful. I was just like, where's my true crime? That would make me feel more safe than this scene that I'm watching.
I only have 2 more frownies.
Okay.
Did you have some more?
No, that my last one. Well, that's why I was confused because the black ended, but then I still had a red. And then there's purple. I don't know what's going on, you guys.
She has a very pretty paper.
I do.
There's lots of things happening there.
No, I don't have any more.
Okay, I think I said all my Pacey and teacher. So Dawson's mom, cheating, and then Joey knows and she kept feeling responsible to like, do I tell Dawson? Do I not? And so she didn't. And he found out, like Katie said, but then he made her feel awful for not telling him.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was really unfair for him to do because Joey, like, that's a really awkward situation to be 15 and having to handle really big grown-up problems. Like, I don't know what I'd do if I was that age and saw something like that.
And we all do it. We project when we're upset
100%.
about something. And so he was upset, so he was projecting onto her. But I was kind of thinking to myself, she didn't do anything wrong.
Nothing.
You're mad at her, but like this situation, it was not her fault.
Correct.
And I mean, I know that's how we are as humans, and we take it out on the people we're closest to, etc. Yes. But I agree, like that was really unfair.
Yeah. And then my very last thing was in Jen and the way she talks to her Grams. She's, and I don't think I picked up on this at the time as a teenager because I was pretty rude, but like she's pretty disrespectful and rude. And I think it probably only bothers me now because I am middle-aged. And if I heard my own kids talk to a grown-up the way she does, I mean,
yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. And I think, and again, too, she also says a whole bunch of stuff like that teenagers probably most likely would not say to their grandmothers, even if you are open and whatever.
Right.
But it just bothered me. I was like, and I think it's supposed to be bothersome.
And she's supposed to be grown up because she's from New York. I'm not saying it's right, but yeah, and the grandma, I also think maybe they're setting it up like the grandmother's not very respectful of her, but
right.
It is your grandmother who's housing you, and also your grandpa's really sick.
But her grandmother is not rude to her. She is not very respectful. I think
she's not respectful of her belief system.
And
her lifestyle, which is just literally being a teenage girl. But yeah.
But I don't feel, well, we haven't got into this yet because this does happen later episodes. I don't feel like, well, I don't know. Anyways, I'm not one of those people who's like, elders have to have all the respect or whatever. But I am kind of.
I mean, yeah.
like there is a way as a 15-year-old you should speak to
There's
grown-ups.
a baseline. There's a baseline. Yeah. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I bet I'll probably notice it now more too since you said that.
Yeah. Well, it gets better. Like as the episodes go on, like their relationship evolves and
And maybe they have and maybe from a storytelling perspective, they have to start from a really low place to let that grow.
Yeah. And I mean it's written the way that way, but it's just something I noticed as like a middle-aged lady being like, oh, rude teenager.
Like, excuse you. Better watch your mouth around your grams. Hello.
And that brings us to the end of middle-aged.
To the end of episode 4, Discovery. And you know what, Dani? All the subtext is making me tired.
Exhausted.
So I think it is time for us to refill our coffees.
Yes.
And let's face it, we both have to pee.
I know.
We've been sitting here for at least 20 minutes, so it's time. Luckily, my studio has 2 bathrooms, so we can just race. Isn't everyone so glad you stayed till the end of this episode? Especially Patrick. I hope he's listening.
I don't know if he listens to these.
He might not.
I don't know.
Patrick.
He'll let us know.
We'll see. He'll know. If he gets to the end of this, he'll know. But
because I know not everybody loves Dawson's Creek. But
yeah, and that's fine.
You're missing out on this episode.
There's a lot going on from the start when I don't even know what my first note said, but the rest was good. So yes, all right, great. Well, we will see you all back, whether on the next Dawson's Creek episode or one of our regular episodes. And until next time, we'll see you then. Bye. Bye.